Hi, this is Kim of Kim's Crypt, and you're listening to Fowl Players Radio.
Hi, everybody. Dwight Weems from Gaz the Fun Band, and you're watching and listening to Fowl Players Radio.
Hi, this is Bud Becker, and you're listening to Fowl Players Radio.
Well, hello, Michael Spedden here from Fowl Players Radio, your home for arts, entertainment, and pop culture. If you're watching this, you are likely watching this on YouTube and can see that I have the greatest space in the world for radio. Tonight's guest is Michael Shipley, who is a veteran guitarist from the Baltimore, D.C. area. He joins us tonight. He's coming back after a couple of years to join us again with some stories about his playing career, the bands he was in, having the opportunity to open for national acts such as Quiet Riot and The Producers. He also shares a bit about performing with his current band, Whiskerfish. Here is some exciting news. Over the next couple of months, we will be relaunching some of our classic episodes and placing them on our YouTube channel. Remember, Fowl Players Radio can always be heard at our main website, www.fowlplayersradio.com, or any platform where podcasts can be found, such as Apple, Stitcher, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, and many more, as well as on our new YouTube channel. No matter where you listen, please remember to hit the subscribe and like buttons and give us a good review. www.fowlplayersradio.com. The Fowl Players of Perryville still have a few shows left this fall. We will be performing on the Western Maryland Scenic Railroad on October 8th and October 29th, and also on New Year's Eve. Tickets are available at www.wmsr.com. Also, don't forget your tickets for the Polar Express, which runs on the Western Maryland Scenic Railroad on selected dates from the Friday after Thanksgiving until Christmas Eve. www.wmsr.com. The Fowl Players of Perryville will also be performing at the 5th Company Brewing in Perryville, Maryland on October 21st, November 12th, and December 10th. Tickets are available at fifthcompanybrewing.com. Stick around. Mike Shipley will be up right after these words.
This is A.D. Adams, and you are tuned in to Fowl Players Radio with your host, Michael Spedden.
Yeah, hi, this is David Simmons from DC Star, and I am just encouraging all of you to tune in to Michael Spedden's show on Fowl Players Radio and love the rock and roll of the past and the art of the future.
Hello, this is John Piet,
Kevin Schmidt,
and Jerry Bozick, and we're August, a little band from Virginia. You can hear our story, other stories from the legendary Baltimore, D.C. music scene, and much, much more with Michael Spedden on Fowl Players Radio. You can find it at www.fowlplayersradio.com, on YouTube, and wherever you find podcasts online. Keep rocking.
Here we go. Folks, we are welcoming back our veteran of our Baltimore area scene, Mike Shipley, tonight. Mike and I got together a couple of years ago and told me a lot of great stories. And Mike's always up to something. If you look at his Facebook, he's always on there with a guitar in his hand, playing here and there, very well respected. You've probably played with everybody in Baltimore, I think, at this point. And we're glad to have you back. It's good to see you, bud. You're looking well.
Yeah, I got all primed and propped and put my clone on and stuff.
Oh yeah, hey, yeah, exactly, yeah. That's so strong I can smell it through the internet. So
that's right. I'm happy tonight, babe.
Yeah, so great to see you, man. So how are things been going?
Good. Working with Whiskerfish, and I'm doing another thing is with Joe Masani and Rich Davis. We haven't gotten together yet because we have to get a practice place.
Mm-hmm.
And we're going to call it Thumbs Up. It came from a band I played with Keith Larson,
mm-hmm.
and we couldn't think of a name. And whenever we were talking to him and he was doing something, he was busy, he would just give a thumbs up.
Mm-hmm.
So we were together. I said, why don't we just call it Thumbs Up? And it and it worked. So I don't think anybody will have a problem with that because I did come up with the name.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm thinking about calling it Thumbs Up. But we're going to do anywhere from the classic rock all the way up through, now they call it classic rock, 90s, and maybe some kind of current stuff. But there's nothing out there today that interests me at all, really, currently.
Yeah.
The music is like in the tank. I mean, You got guys like Chris Stapleton, which is really in the country. But man, what a talent! I mean, guys got an incredible voice.
Mm-hmm.
But outside of that, I mean, then you have what they call there's a country, but they're not country, and they're, you know what I mean. Just the music has got really tanked out.
Right. Right.
I see guys out there getting all this credit. I'm like, like they're so great or something, and I listen to them and go, I'm not hearing it. Maybe it's me, but I don't hear it. There's a guy. He's got a good voice.
Mm-hmm.
He's a blues guy, real tall black guy, and Gary something. I can't think of his last name. And I'm really not all that. I don't see where all the hoopla is about the guy. I mean, he's got a good voice, and songs are like, nothing really new in Paradise, but or nothing new under the sun.
Yep. Who's in Whiskerfish with you?
Yeah, it's me, Bert Ailiff, and now the drummer is Kevin Messercola.
Oh yeah, Kevin. Sure, he's a good drummer. I mean, he's been playing around for a long time.
I've got to work with.
Oh hell, I played Little League with Kevin Messercola.
Oh wow.
He and I are in this. We went to the same elementary school. We're in the same age group. God, I've known Kevin since we were both knee high to a grasshopper. If you can ever believe I was ever knee high to a grasshopper, you know.
I know.
Oh, sure, Kevin. Yeah, and he's very good too. He's an excellent drummer. It sounds like you're in good company with that band, huh?
Well, the other day there's a lot of songs we did before Kevin got in the band, and actually he took on a new bass player, a guy named Ken Feaster, which is really Rob Feaster's brother. And so some of the Hendrix stuff we did, like Fire and Manic Depression, we weren't doing those. I mean, they were like the funner songs to do. I mean, Hard to Handle. I mean, they're like your generic classic rock stuff.
Oh yeah.
But, I mean, the Hendrix stuff is a bit of a challenge, So the other day, we just played Fire on the fly because Kevin said, "Well, I went back and listened to it. We can do it." And I looked at the bass player, and we had a guy sit in with us, guy Dennis. I can't think of his last name. Anyhow, he plays with Kevin in another band, and I think they're called Arrival.
Okay.
Anyhow, he supposedly reads, so he had an iPod with him and was reading, and we did Fire, but it turned out pretty good. And I still would have liked to do Manic Depression. That's a song it's real challenge because it's because you're playing like you're playing. I'm playing that part of Manic Depression. It seeps in my brain, and so it's really it's a challenge to play it and sing it.
Oh yeah.
And then especially when it goes music, sweet music. I wish I could. It goes dun 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 dun. You're singing the whole time. It's like. Yeah, well, I got goosebumps. There's a reason though, because it's a little hard singing and playing that stuff,
Oh yeah, yeah.
But anyhow, I like to be playing that again. But Fire turned out really good, and but I could tell because I'm looking around, looking at the bass player. I'm looking at Bert. Bert's a singer, and Bert was out off the stage, and he's looking at us, going, "Yeah," shaking his head up and down, going, "Yeah, man, it's just cooking," But it felt good because I'm used to playing stuff on the fly. I played with. I got in the DC circuit, right, years ago, and I was doing a lot of substitute work, and I was working with Sinbad and a group called Spice. So Sinbad, I replaced Bobby Stevens, and Mike Valenti was replacing the original drummer. I can't think of his name offhand. Real good drummer. In fact, he used to front the band from the drums.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Vinny, the original drummer, Vinny. Italian guy. Anyhow, well, Mike Valenti's Italian too. But I was doing a lot of substitute work, and it's really funny because guys were like, "Yeah, man, they're always saying DC guys are better than this," and I'm like, "I never say anything," but the guys are going, "Yeah, Shipley, he's a DC guy too," and the guys go, "Oh no, Michael's a Baltimore guy," and they're like, "Oh, well, there's that false pride about local Yokos, and it's like. It's not like that, man. You got great players from all around. You can't say you're better players here than there. It doesn't work that way. You're either a good player and you're on that list, or you're not. But at one point, I was juggling about 6 bands.
Oh wow!
I wouldn't do that again for all the money Hong Kong. It's nerve wracking. And 2 of the jobs were tux jobs. You couldn't go to that job without a tux, right? So, you know what I mean? And they're in DC. Parking is a terror. You know, when you got to pull up where all the dumpsters are, right?
Yeah.
There's always smell of trash, right? And the rats. And you're loading your stuff in. You got to do it really fast to get back out so you don't get a ticket. Then you got to find parking, and it's usually $30 for parking, right? But we were making anywhere between $250 and $400 a job. It was good money. But for a pain it was, but it was worth the pain. You know, we could pay really well for it.
I used to play DC myself in Orange Seed Parade, and the one thing I remembered, a couple of things I remembered about it, and it kind of ties into what you were saying, was that first of all, parking down there, and even finding your way around, because back in those days, you know, we had an ADC map. There was no GPS or anything like that. Those damn circles, the damn stoplights being on the corner instead of hanging over the road.
A French engineer actually came up with the way you got First Street, FIRST, then you have the number 1 ST, First Street, right? It's a circular thing, and it goes from in the center. All the streets lead to the center.
Right.
They all lead to it. If you get lost, it's only because you don't know the way it's set up. But if you know your north, your south, the east, and west, there's no reason why you should ever get lost.
Right.
When you're coming home, which is like coming home from DC. I always took Massachusetts, which led you eventually into New York Avenue.
Yes.
You come back out New York Avenue to the Baltimore Washington Expressway. But I can tell you, man. Yeah, I used to literally had directions on a paper, and I would read the direction while I'm driving. I'm like, you think having a cell phone and driving is bad? Try reading directions while you're driving, you know?
Oh yeah. Well, the other thing too is if you're looking for a parking spot, you drive around the block a couple of times, they're going to pull you over and think you're looking for hookers.
Well, it's really funny you should say that. I'm up around not far from 14th Street, and you know how you got a light, like you said, it's the low lights. You know, which are only about, anyhow, they're not way up high like our lights. Anyhow, there's like a little concrete turn thing, but it's a light right there. These three prostitutes come over, because I had a really nice fully loaded Caprice Classic, and they come over, and you know, they were like trying to drum up some business, and they were like, "Man, honey, when you going? You playing in the band?" I'm like, "Yeah, babe, I'm playing in the band. That's where I'm going too, not here." They're trying to drum up some business. So like, okay, sweetie, take care now. You know,
not far from that, at 15th and K, there was a place called the 15-Minute Club, and we played there one night, and it was they had the coolest
15 minutes, right?
Right. Well, we played I had to go back to the van to get something. We were getting ready to start playing. And I walked outside. I think I left something in the van I needed, you know, so I was walking over to get it. And all of a sudden I look outside and there's like a hooker every 10 feet. And I thought I walked into a 1970s movie, because they had the full platform shoes and the fishnets, and pimps were out there with the big hat with the feather sticking out of it, and the big fur coats on, and rings, and and this was like in the 90s, and I was like, I thought I walked onto a movie set or something, and really. But no, it was legit. That was going on. And then, you know, a limousine would pull up and a bunch of girls would get out and a bunch more would get in, and that was a trip playing down there. But I couldn't believe it. I thought it was a candid camera thing, or a movie was being shot.
I played in the Jewel Box.
Okay, I've heard of that place. I never played it myself. Yeah.
And when you walk in the place, right above your head is actually the floor to the stage where you play.
Yes, I've heard of that.
Bit of a partition. You only see the top of her head because we're all sitting down. And if we're standing up, you can't see her full body. So when you first walk in the place, there's a drop door with a ladder, right? You get the door and this ladder comes down, and that's how you load your equipment up there.
Oh, okay.
So the guys sent me, it was Wesley Pinner was the drummer, and a guy named BJ was a bass player. And oh man, it's really kind of R-rated. But the girl that was dancing goes, "Hey, you skinny MFer." They have really heavy New Jersey accents. She goes, "Hey, you skinny motherfucker, play Gloria." And I'm like, I'm real shy. I mean, I'm totally green and shy. I'm not loud. Back then I wasn't a talker at all. I was really quiet and very shy. My wife, I knew her for 4 months before I even kissed her, and I was just real shy. And the bass player goes, "Hey man, tell her to suck your, you know what, right?" I'm like, he goes, "No man, no, these guys, these women, the hoes, man, they don't mind." So I finally got enough guts and I said it, and I'm playing, not thinking anything of it. We're really loud up there, just ourselves. Didn't even notice I got my gold top Les Paul on my lap, and I'm sitting on the organ bench. They had to be free up there. Anyhow, little did I know, this girl had come up that ladder and crawled along the floor and come up between her leg and went to unzip my zipper.
Oh, jeez.
And I'm like, I stopped playing. I pushed her head down. I was like, "Get the heck away from me!" Right? Well, those guys are laughing. I mean, Wesley Pinner fell off his drum stand on the floor, and the BJ, the bass player, was laughing. They set me up. And the girl's going, "Oh, you see the way he jumped?" But they set me up. It was just a joke. It was a bad joke, but it was a joke. And but you know what? Back then, I remember I got $40 a night. I played a Friday, Saturday. I can't remember the guitar player. He was like the local guy, the famous guitar player, and I don't even remember. He's from South Baltimore, and it wasn't Gil Reinhardt, but it was another guitar player. But he was like widely known. Anyhow, I took his place, but it was $40 a night. I mean, $80 back then. It was 1974. It was like, dang, $40 a night. That's not bad. But it was an experience.
I'd be glad to get that now.
I'm telling you, some of the guys don't even get that.
I know.
Anywhere, look, playing locally now, I get anywhere from 100 to about like $125 or so. And that's fine. I'm only driving 20 minutes. It's rated like Miller's Island and Middle River, places like that. So
Sure,
I don't have a problem with that at all. It's not bad. It's 4 guys.
Oh, no.
I don't have to go to practice and learn anything. If you got to learn a classic rock song, there's something wrong. You haven't been doing it that long.
Right.
But
right.
and I told you about the practice place. It was by Community Action Agency. And they were a spinoff of like Manpower Vista with all that do social programs. And we had a practice place. And back then I had this ego. I was about 18 years old. And I hated anybody that was better than me, right? You know how it goes. Just a little snot nose, Anyhow, the guitar player, he had a 1972 gold top Les Paul, and I had a 68. So he calls me over. And he starts playing this heavy-duty Joe Pass jazz, like doom, 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 playing chords going chung 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 chung. They go, I mean, fast as can be. And I'm like getting smaller and smaller. And he goes, "You know how to play stuff like that?" I'm like, "No." And he goes, then he gets his wah wah. And he goes, wow. I mean, it was Hendrix, big time. And I'm like, getting littler and littler. And I mean, he put me in my place. He says, "Man, I look at you, man. You're giving me stink eye constantly. You got an attitude. He called me a little prick." And I did. I give him stink eye. I was giving him stink eye constantly because he was a really good player. But he's like 29 years old, something like that. These guys were all PhD. They were chemists, and a big community of these guys. They're just highly educated guys. They're a little snot-nosed high school dropout, right? And anyhow, the guy goes, "Man," he says, "you'd be such a little prick." He says, "How long have you been playing?" I said, "I've been playing for about a year." And he goes, "What?" He goes, "Man, you're going to be a monster one day, but man, lose the attitude." And he told me that. And I mean, it's really funny because my ego went down. I mean, I kind of learned my lesson. I'm not saying I didn't still have some kind of ego, but it maybe a bit about 1/8 of it. And that was about where I left with it. And it's just, some of that's just pride,
Yeah, I actually had a couple of people when I was that age, there was always young and dumb, rivalries between other bands, but I was fortunate to have a couple of friends of yours that kind of take me under their wings and mentor me, in exchange for roadieing, and they give me a few bucks for that. Bobby, really took me under his wing and showed me
Trotta.
a lot of stuff, and Bob Trotta,
Yeah.
and yeah, it was just like, I would just go out there and I was grateful to have, I mean, the places that would actually let me sneak in, there's a few places where they were like, no way, but sometimes I'd just go back and sit with the sound man and watch him when I was, like 16, 17, 18 years old. And, yeah, it's a good opportunity when you have somebody who's older than you that'll take you under their wing and kind of show you stuff. And,
Yeah.
my
mentor was, believe it or not, was Lee Shane. His real name Brian Hickton. He's from England. Lee Shane Spring Fever.
Yeah.
And we became best friends. And but Lee was what? 10 or 12 years older than me at least. And
yeah.
we would get finished playing. We played various places, Club 175, and we did a lot of private jobs. But played at Brandy's right on Washington Boulevard, Southwestern Boulevard, and I think it's River Road. It goes to Tapsco State Park.
Oh yeah, sure.
And he did a 1-hour show, and I mean it was actually really funny. I had to learn it really quick, but it was a good show, And Brian just has this, or I should say Lee. Lee has an incredible presence on stage. I never forget because Lee's not real tall. He's kind of short, and he wasn't not heavy, but he had a little bit of a little bit pudgy around the center.
Yeah, sure.
I'll never forget the one time he did a split on stage and picked himself. He grabbed the back of his collar and picked himself back up like that. I know you see people do it, and I mean, all of a sudden was crapped in their pants. I was like, I didn't know you could do that.
Yeah.
He did a full split and goes, it picked himself up. I was like,
It's like John Belushi. He's only one of those guys.
10 years older than me. I'm thinking this guy's, he's good. He'll never do stuff like that. And man, when he did that, we were all like, our eyes were popping out of our head.
It's like John Belushi. You never thought John Belushi could. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
We would get a white coffee pot on Ritchie Highway.
Yeah.
Coming from around, it was at Odenton or something like that, Club 175. We would stop off there. And I mean, we would sit there and drink coffee, eat a breakfast, and be there for like 5 or 6 in the morning, talking about all the old stuff. And he told me, he says, I mean, you could go into a pub. He says, I leave my mom's, go to a pub. He says, and we'd be Jeff Beck or what's his name from 10 years after, Alvin Lee. I mean, it's not unusual. And you never made a big deal about it because you grew up with these guys.
Right.
So he says, Mike, he says, I really do admire your playing. He says, for a guy this young, you've been playing for a couple of years now. I'm 20 years old, since 74. He says, look, man, if you go to my country, he says, I talked to my mom, and she'd be willing to take you in until you got yourself started. He says, Mike, they would eat you up there. He says they would, you would never be out of work there, number one, because they knew you're from America, and you've got soul background, Motown background, you got rock background. They would eat you up. You'd never be out of work. But I was like, Mommy, I was afraid to leave home and go out of the country, and I would have to get a passport and all this other stuff. And I'm not sorry I didn't do it, because I wouldn't have the family I have. And but Lee had that kind of confidence in me, and that was, I think young guys need that.
Yes,
it has to be a fatherly figure or a mentor. And in my case, I'm not trying to get up. Yo, poor guy. Me and my dad never got along. I mean, my mom worked for Oven Door. People, she could recognize signs and cans of this and she knew product, but she couldn't read a book. So my mother was functionally illiterate. And my father, I don't even know how I did it, but he would take about 10 minutes and then he'd get all frustrated and walk out the door and go get drunk. So I never had anybody help me in school.
Sure.
I was like self-driven. And that was part of the reason I quit school too, because it didn't make sense for me to be there. And but music was my outlet. So when I quit school, that was like job number one was music.
Yeah.
And played with various bands. First band I ever had with guys I grew up with. And we had several times we formed bands. They're all self-taught, but it's a group called Mammoth. We were playing like Grand Funk and Black Sabbath and stuff like that. I can remember our next door neighbor, my friend Walt Cooper. He lived in Pigtown, and he really was a predominantly black neighborhood. but very lower middle class, poor people, but just down to earth people. And
Mhm.
next door neighbor, I think her name was Betty, was a black lady. And she just, I don't know if she really did, but she said she loved to go, man, that song you did there, that was going, and she would say part of the words. That was good. I mean,
Mhm.
and we weren't all that good, believe me. But we were doing sitting down like a man, Grand Funk song.
Mhm.
And then we were doing down, all right now
Mhm.
by Black Sabbath. And then it went from that point on. I was jamming with some guys one time, and the singer come by one day. And he goes, "Who's that guy you're playing guitar?" And he goes, "Oh, his name's Mike Shipley." Well, it was Roger Pace and Dusty Shelf. They're all like, I'm 19, they're 29, and the keyboard player, P3 player, was 40 some years old. Anyway, they were looking for a guitar player, and I can remember one of these nights, the really high thing at the end of the song. I used to sing that part.
Oh,
That's
wow.
what kind of falsetto I had back at the time, and didn't need to tighten up my G string to do it. Right, I just had it naturally. I had a really high falsetto voice.
Mhm.
Anyhow, that's how I got the job with that band. And the funny thing is, I didn't have a car, didn't have a license yet because I couldn't afford a car because I lived in the city.
Mhm.
But singer and whatnot agreed to come pick me up. So we were house band at the Hollanders, right across the street from the Patterson movie.
Yep. Mhm.
So it was easy. We dropped my equipment off there, and I played there almost every night when we did. And the guys, when they went to load equipment, play an outside job or a private job, or we played the Casco in sometimes, they just went loaded up with their stuff. And that was an experience because here I am, 19. I'm the baby of the band, and they paid attention to me because I was young. And
Mhm.
in fact, I lost my buddy Mark Marcelina just recently. Just died. He was a drummer.
Oh, it's a
Now, I
shame to
didn't
hear.
know that he had pulmonary thrombosis or something, some of the hardening of the lungs.
Oh, yeah, yeah. I know what you mean, yeah.
But I think I'm not sure, but I think Mike might have been a heavy smoker. But I know it years ago he was a heavy smoker of pot, but
Mhm.
because he was the kind of guy that could roll a joint and it would look like a damn Pall Mall. I'm not kidding you. He could roll. And one time he told me, he says, well, he called it Chiba. And
Mhm.
I think today they call it Colombian, but it was called Chiba.
Mhm.
And we were playing the frigate. And he told me, he says, Mike, don't smoke about a quarter of, don't smoke a whole. He said, it'll destroy you.
Mm.
So I smoked like a quarter of it. We got on stage. We were playing this. I think it was Blood, Sweat, and Tears, and I started playing Leave for Vehicle. Right? The song Vehicle sounds like Blood, Sweat, and Tears.
Mhm.
And I mean, the lead fit, but I froze up. It's like, oh man, what am I doing? I was so man, I butt from a hole in the ground.
Oh, man. It's been a rough month with music around here too. We lost a couple of big players.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, we lost Keith Menzer, Mystic Force,
I just
a-
saw that.
and Jeff Avery from DC Star passed away
I
too.
just was it. I for some reason I couldn't remember if it was Jeff Avery with DC Star or Jeff Avery. Who was a guitar player that played for Orange Wedge?
Oh, was it David Simmons?
Yeah, maybe that was it.
I
Well,
think was
I tell you
Greg
one thing I
Sinners in that
remember.
band?
Huh?
Was Greg Sinners in that band too? Orange Wedge, maybe.
Not that I know of. Greg Sanders was in Silver Queen.
Silver Queen, and yeah, I've had him as a guest, and I've known him for a long time too.
Mhm.
Axis Sally, Silver Queen, Shockwave.
Yeah.
I thought I had heard him mention Orange Wedge too, but I'm not sure.
Well, I remember the guitar player that played for Orange Wedge had a purple Marshall. I
Mhm.
never saw one before. He's the
Huh.
only guy I ever see play through a purple Marshall.
Wow.
I mean, I couldn't afford a Marshall if I had 10 jobs back then. I mean,
Yeah, right.
I was a kid. I was 12 years old. I shined shoes,
Mhm.
make money, right?
Sure.
I'm not kidding. I did. I bought my 3 DC comic books with it. I just got a corner store. It was the Alperns, a
Mhm.
Jewish couple. They owned it, and they had 2 booths.
Mhm.
And right beside the booths were all the place where they put the comic books. So I go in, I get a Stewart sandwich, one of those was like looking on a hoagie roll, and it's a ham and cheese, and they
Oh,
put it in the oven. They would toast the roll. It was called a torpedo Stewart sandwich. And I would get that thing of chips and a fountain soda and my DC comic books. And I did that every Saturday morning because I used to go out shoe shining on Friday nights. But anyhow, back to the bands. So that was the first real band I ever played with, was Roger Pace and Dusty Shelf. And Roger was such a performer on stage. But it's really funny. You get him off stage, you couldn't barely get 2 words out of him. He was a true introvert, you know. He I found out years later he became a total obsessive compulsive.
oh,
And
yeah.
see, Roger was a really bad alcoholic. He was like he was a blue-eyed James Brown back in the day.
Mm-hmm.
And I think he did like a tryout in Vegas or something, and he showed up and literally was sloshed. And the guy basically said the old saying, "You'll never work in this town again."
Oh, yeah.
But see, Roger cleaned his act up. But
Mm.
when Roger died, I don't go to the funeral parlor, but for Roger, I knew all the old guys I played with back then I hadn't seen since would be there. So I said, I'm going to go there. It was right on Blair Road. I can't think of the name of the funeral parlor.
Mm-hmm.
Anyhow, I get there, I look in the coffin, and Roger's got his saxophone right beside him.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not kidding you, Michael. Roger came in the store one time when I worked at Gordon Miller's, and he did not look as good as he did in that coffin. He had his head shaved. He had lightning bolts on each side of his forehead.
Hmm.
And I swear I thought he's going to jump up and it was a joke. Because, I mean, that would not surprise me the guys play a joke like that. Because, I mean, they would go that far. So this guy walks up to me and he goes, "I bet you think he's going to jump up at you right now." I said, "You know what? I was just thinking that." He goes, "I can assure you he's not. He's really gone. He's dead. He's not in this realm anymore." He said, "But," I said, Roger came in the store where I worked at, and he did not look this good. And but man, what a talent! Never read a note, but he had composition books. Remember, used to use in school.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It looks like marble, like
Yeah.
design outside. There's cardboard. Like he had a stack of those things, and I mean, there wasn't a song that he did not know, from standards to what was going on at the time. Like songs like Brandy. Brandy, you're a fine girl. Na, 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 na. You know the song I'm talking about, right?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
But the ocean is his lover. Anyhow, I mean, it wasn't a song that man didn't know. Back then, it's really funny, that band. Jimmy Harrison was the B3 player, and he says, "Mike, we're going to do Grazing in Grass, A flat major 7. I went, "What's that?"
Yeah.
"Oh, you mean that?" And I played. He goes, "Do you know the notes you're playing?" I went, "Not really." And he said, "We're going to fix that." And he explained to me, there's 7 notes: A, B, C, D, F, G. The black keys are sharps and flats. He says, and it's no B sharp, it's called C. There's no E sharp, it's called F. He explained all this to me, right? And he says, if you're in the key of A, D flat is the major third, and C is the minor third. So once I knew the 1, 4, the 5th, the 3rd, the augmented, the diminished, the half diminished, it made sense, because I could play a D position chord, go up a half step, that's D sharp, go up another step, it's E, then F, F sharp. It's all the same. A, B, C, D, E, F, G. No matter what position you're playing a chord in,
Right.
you can still move up in half steps, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I found out years later, mathematically, with a diminished chord, there's only 4 of them, because it goes dun, 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 dun. Then it repeats itself after the 4th one, because you go up a whole octave.
Oh, right.
Augmented, you're going 2 steps at a time. That's 4 increments. There's only 3 of those chords. So get in my way, but it allowed me to be able to fake jobs or play on the fly. And I have to say, between him and several other keyboard players, they were patient enough to sit down with me, and I learned a little bit of theory, enough to. I still don't read. I understand what a staff is. All cows eat grass. Every good boy does fine. And face, right? I know that. And when like you're in key of D, you're going to have an F sharp, right? You have a sharp sign on F sharp, because F sharp is the major third in the key of D, right? So you learn all this as you go along. But it was keyboard players that taught me this. It wasn't guitar players. It was keyboard players. And so that's, the journey of playing music. As you move on, thank God you come in contact with people that are more than willing to help you out. Like you said, take you under your wing.
Yeah.
And on Roger Pace, I went with I think it was with Speakeasy. It was a guy named Chuck Serio was the bass player. Well, we had 2 drummers, or actually 3. It was Mike Fort, Gino Angel. I think you might know Gino Angel if you saw him. And the real drummer was Billy Schaefer, but he also used to front us. And I kid you not, he sang stuff from Led Zeppelin, then turn around and do a Rod Stewart. Every Picture Does a Story, the stuff off that album, and he'd do it really well. And his drummer, we used to do stuff by Billy Cobham off of the Spectrum album. And I'm telling you what, I never heard another band ever do it. In fact, it was years later, 30 years later, here Jeff Beck doing a couple songs off of that album. And the fact the break in the song was and I mean, Tommy Bolin played the lead on that. I mean, I heard him, I was like, whoa, who's this guy? But I'll tell you what, Tommy Bolin never played that well again with any other band, Rainbow or James Gang. No, when you hear the Spectrum album, Tommy Bolin was one of the hottest guitar players around. Unfortunately, it was what? I don't even think he was in his 30s. He might have been 34 or something like that. Drugs and alcohol.
Oh, yeah.
Damn shame. So anyhow, went for Speakeasy, and then we're playing some other local bands, playing the bigger clubs. And lo and behold, I meet the Crabs. We used to jam and Robusto.
John Robusto, yeah.
We would jam, and we show up at these jams, and I go to show him a song I just learned, and he knows it too. So we were like parallel. We were learning the same material, We learned a song called Laundromat. I can't think of the guitar player name's out of Ireland, and it wasn't Gary Moore, it was the other guy. For some reason, I'm having a brain fart here. But anyhow, we will learn the same stuff. But that's how I got to meet the Crabs, right? So what happened when Johnny Robusto left the band because of his Christian faith, he couldn't play in clubs anymore. At least that's the way he felt. They got a hold of me, and I still didn't have a car yet. I was 22, and it was somewhere around June when I joined the band. And most of the material I knew already, but we had to work some stuff out vocally and stuff like that. And we were playing the Howland House. I know you know where the Howland House is, right there, right where 40, right where Philadelphia Road ends in the Route 40 Pulaski Highway. That club right there used to be the Howland House. Well, that's where I met Diane.
Oh, okay, right.
She met the guy she was dating, and she came to the club because she knew all the guys, from Wizard, Rob Fay and all those guys, and
Tony Vega, yeah.
Tony Vega, and
from God, Johnny plays with them now. In the Bristols. God, what? How the hell is his name escaping me?
What's the bass player's name in Howland's Ferry? Nick Longo. That's it.
Longo. There was Nick Longo,
right
but then
Haven Street.
Yep.
And, super nice guy.
Yeah.
His name. He died of lung cancer. He died really young too. He wasn't even in the 30s,
Yeah.
But it was him, Rob Fay, and Tony Vega had a band called Howland's Ferry. So I got to know all the Eastern Avenue guys and the Howlandtown guys. And like I said, we were playing there, and Diane came out one night. She left the guy she was dating, and she says, "Who's that guitar player?" And they're like, "Oh, his name's Mike Shipley." And they're like, "So we're up shooting pool," and she goes, and I challenged us. "Can I challenge the game?" She goes, "Yeah." So she's a girl, and I let her beat me, but to this day, she says she beat me fair and square. But whatever, I don't care. But anyhow, that's where I met Diane, and I can remember having an attitude like, "Man, I don't want to get involved with anybody. I want to make it in music and blah blah blah." And I was real temperamental. I could be a real ass sometimes. I mean, sometimes I treated her so bad. But I remember one day we came out of Tony's Music on Eastern Avenue, and she come walking across the street, and I still remember this like it was yesterday. Man, a smile came on my face, and I was so happy to see her because I think it out of guilt. And I felt so bad because I treated her like crap. But I really knew I was hooked. I knew I loved her, and that was just. She came across the street, and she had a long dungaree jacket on. It was a really neat looking jacket, and she had these big sunglasses on, and I was just like, dum, 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 dum. My heart was like, dum, 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 you know, skipping a jump, and But I'll tell you what the real clincher was. She showed up at the Holland House with this guy, Tony. Hey, Tony, you know, the Italian Tony. The little turd. I was so freaking jealous. I would always say, I'll call you. She said, you call me, we'll have a majówka. A majówka is Polish for picnic. Figure. So anyhow, I would never call. You know, I say, I'll call. Yeah, we'll have a majówka, and I would never call. Well, she showed up at the club with this guy, Tony. And my ass was on the phone like 10 o'clock the next morning. I never got up before 12. I was up 10 o'clock. Hey, Ty, what's up? Got me big time, man. You know. But that was that's when I knew I was. He's hooked. He's hooked. His brain is cooked. You know, I knew right then and there. And we talk about this now. And I knew Di for like 4 months. And like I said, I was shy. She was like a Polish Catholic girl, and I didn't know how to act. I mean, girls I knew were like kind of loose, and I was not a floozy. Anyhow, I wasn't perfect, but I wasn't a floozy.
Right.
Because I was too shy to be a floozy. And I remember one night I had about 3 or 4 beers, and I was not one to drink while I played, but I had 3 or 4 beers and a little happy. And she had a really nice looking brand new Camaro with white leather interior, and it was like 1975 or so model, which was a really cool year. And I was leaning up against it. I pulled his horse to give her his first kiss. So years later, we were sitting down on the bed reading her diary, and my daughter's there. She's about 12 or 13, and Di goes, "Well, it only took him 4 months, but he finally kissed me." And she had big lips. Wow, what a kisser! And my daughter's like, "Dad, Ma, stop."
That's funny.
These are things you don't know about yourself until it comes out in her diary. And
right.
it makes you feel good. And it's funny because the parallel too. The guys I grew up with, we never told each other how good we were or anything like that. Well, I would hear these stories about if people go, "Yeah, it's a guy named Mike Shipley," and if they don't know me, "Yeah, man, he's the guitar player, like, and all that's all Chuck Serial and all these guys ever talk about. Mike Shipley this, Mike Shipley that," and I'm like, "Really?" They say, "Well, who are you?" And I'm like, "Mike Shipley." And they're like, "Oh, you're the guy they're talking about, right?" But they never said that, and I'm kind of glad because they didn't let my head get big, but
right.
It kept me humble, and I think being shy kept me out of trouble too. I didn't wind up going to get a shot for, you know what I mean?
Right. Ed Bartholomew. That's who I was thinking of from Wizard, and he plays with Johnny now. They have that band, the Bristols.
What did he play?
Keyboards and guitar, I think.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he's a left-handed guy, and from what I remember, but he was. They have the Bristols now, and they're doing British Invasion 60s.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, a funny story about Tony Vega. We go out to see him one night because we were off, and we went to Fells Point. The hell was the place called? It was right on Fleet Street. It wasn't Mustard Seat. It might have been J.W. Gaithers or something.
Oh, E.J. Bugs, maybe?
No, that wasn't E.J. Bugs. It was like something Gaither or something. Anyhow, we go to see them, right? And I can still remember what Rob played. He had a Strat, and he had a really neat, it was a compression and fuzz tone pedal. And I wound up getting one too. And I think at the time he might have been playing an older Marshall. And anyhow, when we were around the neighborhood, these guys were like, "Yeah, man, how you doing?" Yeah. Well, we show up at the job, they were like, they would dish you. So me being Omri, I'm like, "Oh, that's right. You're real famous now. That's right. You can't talk to us little people, right, Tony?" Tony Vega, right?
Oh,
I said,
yeah.
"That's okay, because one day you're going to get fat and bald, and you're going to be playing with Johnny Trotta." I hadn't seen Tony Vega for 30 years plus, right? So I'll go out to see Max. just for hell of it, because I think it was Bobby told me you're playing with it, and I said, "Well, I'll come
And
out and see you
Ed.
guys." I never go out. I
Mhm.
go out to see those guys, and there's Tony Vega. He's like balding and he's heavy set. And I'm like, I didn't wish it on the guy, but it was just really funny when I thought back what I said to him, and I didn't mean anything really by
Yeah,
it. I
yeah.
just meant to try to humble him a little bit,
I,
But
I
I'm
roaded for
thinking,
them
oh
too.
my, I wouldn't have wished that on my worst enemy, but what the heck.
Yeah, I roaded for them too. I was still around with those guys.
Uh-huh.
They would. I was still working my way through college at night, working a couple of jobs, and I had my work scheduled where I was off, and I could take their gear to the clubs on a Friday and then pick it up on a Saturday night when they were done. And Johnny kept me on the payroll and everything, and we had a good time. We had a good time with that. And Tony, of course, he was playing guitar in that band. He wasn't drumming because they had Ed Dilly playing drums.
Yeah, exactly. Well, yeah,
Yep.
he was playing guitar in this band, Max.
Yes,
He
yeah,
was playing
Max.
guitar
That's
in
what I
Max.
was. Yeah, that's what I meant. Yeah, Max. And
Yeah.
we had a good time with that. They
Well,
were
who played
together.
drums? But it wasn't Ed Dilly, was it?
Yeah, yep.
Oh, it was Ed Dilly.
It was
I know
Ed Dilly.
he took Fetchick's place. And from a distance one time, I almost yelled out Fetchick, and I looked up again. Oh, it's not Fetchick. Because
Yeah.
from a distance, they looked like Bobby Fetchick.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah, Bobby ended up playing with Greg Sinners and Shockwave too.
okay.
On the they were on the 97 Underground.
I saw Bob Fetchick. I was invited to go play with him. It was me, Joe, what's his name, that had Invisible Studios.
Oh, Joe Rinaldo, yeah.
Or no, that's it. And I can't think of the drummer's name. He was a young guy, somebody's son, I think it was. And then Rob Fay came, and it was Bob Fetchick's 60th birthday.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So Danny Barnes came and did the sound. Danny, the story about that is Danny and I went to Rhett's Electronics.
Yep.
And but Danny stayed with it and got certified. Smart kid. And he had such a good ear for music that I said we needed a sound guy. Winterson did. And we had a biamp, 16-channel biamp board. And I told him, what they call unity gain. I told him what unity gain was. Keep everything rate zeroed out. Keep your mids and everything all right at 12 o'clock, and only add when you need it. But most of the time you want to taking it away. Don't go like, that. It's a mixture. Some things you do add, but most of the time you're taking it away. I had a really good ear for when I hear a feedback. I would tell the guy, go pull down 600. I can hear that pitch, and I learned what pitches are within the hertz, right? And sound. So when I was teaching Danny, Danny went on, got into these really big companies. I think he became like a millionaire. I was talking about, I went over to visit my mother, and who should be on the phone? But Danny goes, oh, put Mike on the phone. He goes, Mike, I'm in Chicago now. I'm like a millionaire now. And he says, and I became a millionaire from what you taught me, the sound guy. We both went to Rhett's, and I kept going with it and started these different sound guys. He worked with Martin Connelly. They did all the Hopkins Plaza, and they did the Inner Harbor stuff. But he's forming big sound companies. What's really funny, when he first got in the band, he carried around a cough syrup. And I said, "What, you got a cold?" He goes, "Yeah, I've had a cold for a while." Well, I didn't pay attention, but 6 months later, he still got a cough medicine. Well, come to find out, Danny was taking the edge off. He was doing, because Danny was thinner back then. He was kind of active, like tennis and stuff like that. Active athlete. Well, Danny, when I saw him at 60th birthday party, he got off to around 300 and some pounds. He was huge. I knew it was him, but I was shocked. And I think he battled a weight problem back when he was young, and that's why he had the cough syrup to take the edge off. When you're doing speed, you can become too hyper.
Yeah.
Take that little bit of the edge off.
Sure.
I think that's what happened. And but Danny's still a super guy, got freaking energy at the wing wang, But he's doing well for himself, and knows his stuff, no doubt about it. He set up everything that day, and it went fairly smooth, I did a job one time. It was a band called Papa Bear. It was called, stupid name, but these are a bunch of older guys. And I was about 19 at the time.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like a side job, but it was in somewhere called like Baltic, Ohio or something. It was like 33 miles west of Columbus, Ohio. And when we left, it was nine inches of snow on the ground. It was a
Mm-hmm.
brand new, spanking new Volkswagen bus, no snow tires.
Mm-hmm.
We're riding up through the mountains through Erie and all that stuff. And I mean, I almost been out of my mind. And they had Blacks and Crossroads, popping Crossroads like it was candy. And
Mm-hmm.
we're all none of us could get a word in edgewise, right? You know, and I mean, we're looking like we're going up these mountains, and like it's just you know how they got the like logs, and it's like a cable. That's
Mm-hmm.
all stop you from going over the edge of this cliff,
Oh yeah.
and then you can't see anything because it was snowing so hard. It it had to be over a foot of snow by the time when we hit the Ohio line. It
Mm-hmm.
stopped dead. Not a flake on the ground and not a flake in the air.
Wow.
But we played this place, and they treat us like rock stars. I mean, they really did. It was a place out in the boondocks.
Mm-hmm.
But we had a drummer that played. He played his left hand. His left hand was on the hi hat. His right hand was on the snare. You know what I mean?
Okay. Yeah.
He
Yeah.
didn't
Yeah.
cross it like most drummers. He played that way, and
Hmm.
his name was Dingo. All names. His name was Dingo.
Mm.
You know. And the guy, the singer, name was Ed. I don't know anybody's last name. I know the bass player's name was Woody. It's like dear, you know.
Mm.
And they were all older guys, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But I got paid good, and you know, they told me right off the bat when I get paid. I was, oh yeah, I'll do that job.
Mm-hmm.
You know, didn't have to have a car or anything. They drove me. So, but I mean, I think all these little things I did years ago, and
Mm-hmm.
and then like I said, I was with Lee Shane Spring Fever, and I was 20 then, and then years later, my bad boy days in 1983 and 84, almost 85, I was with a group called Fast Forward. In
Mm-hmm.
fact, I saw a ticket stub. It was we opened up for Quiet Riot at Coast to Coast,
Oh, okay. Yeah. Yeah. Tell me about that.
and I'm setting up right, and I kid you not, drummer, super nice guy. I talked to Rudy Sarzo for well over 2 hours. Super nice, and a little guy. I thought he was Italian, but he's actually Cuban.
Mm-hmm.
But the drummer goes, "Hey man, will you help me out if you want?" I went, "Help you out? You're the guy. We're opening it up for you. I don't want you to help me out." But he's a super nice guy. And Rudy showed me his bass system, and he had two Schaefer wireless systems, which at the time was the top notch systems.
Mm-hmm.
And man, talk about chops. I mean, he really had incredible chops. And
Oh,
I
yeah.
said, man, you're playing the bang on boom, 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 boom. I said, man, he goes, yeah, I know the job sucks, but I need the bucks. That's exactly what he said to me.
Yeah.
And I remember one of the breaks, Carlos, the guitar player, that took Randy Rhodes' place. He comes out of the dressing room. He's got white caked all on his nose. And I looked at him like, Carlos, you got do the nose check. So he takes the back finger and wets it. Goes like this. Down. Goes, hey, thanks, dude. But you know, it's really funny. Rudy says to me, you know, like these guys, because I don't drink, I don't smoke, I don't do drugs. He says, I have a family. When I leave this rock and roll thing, I go home and I'm a family guy. And that bowled me over. I was like, I did not expect that. It's like,
Mm-hmm.
you know, the other guys were kind of wild and crazy, but Kevin Dubrow, was that his name?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
I'd never been a bigger jackass, nasty guy in my life.
Oh yeah, I'd heard that.
Such a jackass. And I personally never thought he was that good a singer. Well, doing sound check, the stage manager would not let us stand out front. We had to go backstage while they did a sound check. And when I heard him singing the sound check, I said, "There's no way this guy's going to get on stage." I mean, he was so out of tune. But lo and behold, when he got on stage that night, he was fine. I don't know if he did on purpose to be a jackass or what, but what a nasty guy. And I don't know how those guys can work together. Just because everybody else in the band got along really good. And, you know, Carlos, the guitar player, is real flighty, but funny guy. You know, like real upbeat. Rudy Sarzo is kind of semi-quiet, real reserved, and you can tell he always thinks before he speaks. Doesn't do things doesn't speak on the fly. And the drummer is just an all-around nice guy. I think it was trying to remember. I think it was Frankie.
Frankie Benelli. Yeah, we just lost him about a year or two ago.
Yeah, right.
Yep.
A super nice guy.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, the guy asked me if I wanted to help me set up, and I'm like, "You're gonna be kidding? You're a national act, man. I'm just a little booger here, No, I don't pay attention to that. That shocked me because I'm like, damn, you can't find that even locally,
And what was the name of the band that you were in at that time?
Fast Forward.
Forward.
Howard Spurline, Charles Michael Hamilton, was the keyboard player. In fact, now Michael Gray is now with Bryce. His last name is Bryce. So he's a country guy.
Okay.
National act. Now, Mike was the original drummer, but he decided to move over in percussion. So now he plays percussion for him. And I don't know why. I never really asked him why. But he went through, in fact, Mike went through a stint where kind of got messed up with nose candy for a little bit. I ran into him many years ago, about 1986. And it was someplace, Blue Ridge Mountain, I think it was, up north somewhere. And I hadn't seen him for years. And when I saw him with, what the hell is it? Tim Bryce but he's a real well-known, he's a national act now. And he's doing real good for himself. Howard Spurline was the bass player, singer, and we had Steve Walterhofer was the second guitar player, and he also played bass, like on some of the Van Halen stuff. He played bass, and but Steve could play drums, could play keys, could play guitar, and he was not a bad singer. We used to do "Runaway" by John Bon Jovi, and he sang that, and we did. It's the Van Halen song. I'll wait till the sun goes down.
Oh yeah, sure. I'll wait. Yeah.
Well, we used to play that song, and even when I listened to the video, we had a lot of videos we did back then, and I have a DVD now because Steve Walterhofer made a DVD of all these old videotapes and sent it to me, which was real cool. I didn't expect that because when I left the band, it was not with Steve Walterhofer, but the other guys. They hated my guts because they kept auditioning guys going, "We can't find somebody." To get play like you. And I said, well, you're not going to find me. It's kind of ridiculous. It's somebody that can do the songs, I think they wound up breaking up, and I know Howard went with Staggerwing.
Oh, sure. I remember that band. Yeah.
Now, Steve Walterhofer, his father was what he called a speculator. He would go and find these hotels in trouble, and he would go ahead and buy it, build it back up the business, and then go ahead and just flip it, right?
Right.
Well, Steve would manage those hotels, right? He's got a real good business sense. He's from Texas originally, and he has a decent education behind him. So he's a pretty smart guy, and a good guitar player, by the way. He's a really good, tasteful guitar player. Not a real fast or anything like this. A really good, tasteful guitar player. And that's worth $1 million, And I hadn't seen Steve since I left the band. Except for when he sent me that DVD. Well, I'm playing this one job, and Steve's like, it's on the Eastern Shore, and Steve says, I'm coming out to see you guys tonight. You got me through me on Messenger, Facebook. That's how we connected again. He comes out, and that was with the hubcaps.
Oh.
And but you say, Mike, you sound great. He says, man, well, you did the rock stuff though. I mean, because that's your stuff, That should have been point number 2, And I probably need to move on,
Yep.
And it's really funny because I think I even got really good at that stuff. And I mean, I was singing Little Anthony. And how you go from Little Anthony to going dip dop did it, dip dop did it up, doing all the bass like baritone parts. And ba do ba ba do da ba do ba da do, that. Anyhow, doing these Blue Moon.
Oh yeah. And
at the end, let's go Blue Moon. it's come all the way back up.
Oh,
And it's a
yeah,
big,
yeah.
everybody's like, whoa, you heard him do that. But I mean, I'm really a second tenor. But I never knew this till I got with these guys. I said, you have a low speaking voice. I bet you can do these parts. Well, I mean, how you go from singing Little Anthony, which is really, you don't remember that kind of voice, to to Paul Rogers.
Sure, yeah.
I'm singing Midnight Hour and Knock on Wood.
Mm-hmm.
And but friends used to tell me when I used to do the Van Morrison stuff, I could sound like Van Morrison. And but I think it's because years ago I used to be able to sound like a lot of actors, and I used to be able to imitate like, "Hey now, you stinker," funny, right?
Oh, yeah.
But that's all, folks. Just the laugh is very similar to Bugs Bunny's, and like it would be, "Oh, that's ridiculous, Patrick." That SpongeBob, right?
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
"Oh, please, SpongeBob." That would be Squidward, and then it's like, "Got a quarter?" That would be Patrick.
Yep.
Well, we did voices then years ago. Well, my son is even better at it than I am. He does Raymond and Robert from Everybody Loves Raymond.
Oh,
when I go,
wow.
No. But my son, man, can hear it and he just nails it. I mean, he'll have me laughing. I'm peeing myself laughing because he remembers the dialogue. I mean, word for word.
Mm-hmm.
And then when he does SpongeBob stuff, he knows the dialogue. I mean, verbatim. I'm sitting there because it was funny when I watched it, but to hear my son say it again, and he does all three parts, and I'm like, dang, man.
Yeah.
And he's a talented artist. I mean, my son, both my kids have musical tendencies. Blair more so, but both of them are artists. But Blair doesn't want to do it at all. But she's drawing some things that were just. She did the Scream. Remember that famous painting, the Scream and Starry Night. Now she did Starry Night completely, but the Scream, I drew it with pencil and she painted it. But I moved the shadowy figures over a little bit, but I drew it. And if you look at it at first glance, you're like, man, it looks just like the painting, and it does. It really does. If I was downstairs, I would get and let you see it. But I think I've actually posted it on Facebook. Chances are you'll probably see it again. But both of my kids are artistic, not autistic.
Yep.
And I got it from my mother's father. He was a musician, an artist, and a bricklayer. There's nothing he couldn't do. Plumbing, electricity. But that's that's the greatest generation, and
self-reliance. They learned how to do everything, take care of a house, take care of a car, that's how I was raised too.
He had a brother Frank and had a brother Bill, and all of them were the same way. They did tile. In fact, I remember they took the tile up in my house I basically grew up in, because they didn't know it back then, but it was the cancer causing asbestos type tile.
Sure, right.
I remember they pulling that stuff up, tearing it up, and then putting the new plywood floor down, then new tile on top of that. But I remember those guys doing it in one day. I mean, knock it out. Nowadays, like 3 days, they charge you an arm and a leg for it.
Isn't that the truth?
But my grandfather was he was a shy man, but around the holidays, around Christmas time, he would break out his accordion, and he had a mother of pearl accordion. It was beautiful.
Oh, nice.
I kid you not. He had to have about 50 harmonicas, and if some of them were chromatic, you know what a chromatic harmonica is, right? It's got the little button on the side goes do 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 do. Where a blues harp, you got to find the key. If you're playing in the key of E, I think you need a B, the fifth. I think you need a B harp for playing the key of E.
Yeah. You can cross harp like that. Johnny does that because when Johnny and I play together, I just play the key that we're playing in. I just use that harp, but Johnny cross harps all the time. He plays the fifth. Yeah.
And then if you're playing a minor key, that's that gets really weird. But I don't know what to do with that. I would have to play which one to hear it. But my grandfather played all the blues harps, and he played the chromatic harp. He had one harp. It was a baritone harp, and it was over a foot long. That's how
yeah.
Right. And then he had a real little soprano harp. It was only about this big, right? It's like, but he played them all really well. And around Christmas time, he would sing Christmas songs on his accordion.
Mm-hmm.
And he had a decent singing voice too. But I remember he was really shy, but for some reason Christmas brought out the entertainment side of him. And his name was Benner. Last name was Benner. He was German, totally German. Now my grandmother, her last name was Sparrow. She was totally English. So my father lineage was English, Irish, Polish, and German, but mostly English. So I'm mostly from the Shipleys came over from England in 1680.
Okay.
So we had that melding pot, you know, and
Yeah,
I've always said mutts live longer. So maybe if now that I know that I'm a mutt. My father's 94. He turned 94 in August.
Oh wow.
He's still peeing vinegar, you know. You know, my father was the nicest guy in the world to everybody else in the world.
Mm-hmm.
That being said, I'll leave it at that.
How about you had mentioned also that you had opened for the Producers.
Yes, we did in Myrtle Beach.
Oh, okay.
A place called the Castaways.
Okay.
30-some steps to get your equipment up, because way upstairs, right?
Oh wow. Sounds like the Paragon in College Park. Or the Feathers.
Oh right. I remember that place. I remember that.
Yeah, but I think I remember the same thing you do, hauling that Winter Sun GGM PA system up and down those steps too. You remember the GGMs?
Yeah, I basically just shy of the refrigerator bombs, right?
Yeah.
Remember the refrigerator bombs? They were called W bottoms.
Yes.
Plus, they had the 90-degree with the metal horn. I think it was a 1-inch diaphragm in it.
Yep.
JBL type 1-inch diaphragm. They were heavy as all heck, you know. And it's you know, they were made with it was a 1-inch plywood. The Perkins, was it Perkins mids?
Oh, I think it was. I know it was community cabinets. I know a lot of them were community cabinets. Okay. I think it was. I think the bass cabinets, those GGMs, were.
When I was with Centaur and what they call it was Cat Tracks. We had FRC bottoms. You ever see FRC community tape? They have an extension on it that you can literally walk in. They're all horn loaded, right? It's like a bell shape, and you have the clips on the side. It's 2 15s, and they literally clip onto this fiberglass flange. And they're different size flanges. And the big one, you can literally walk in it. That's how big the flange is.
Oh yeah.
And you're talking. You could easily put 15,000 watts in this system minimum. You know, forget about using 1,000 watt amp. If you do, you better just use 1,000 watts straight through, right? Because I mean, these are huge cabinets. I mean, you use these cabinets and you're playing for like 20,000-30,000 people, right?
Yeah. Or Feathers, one of the two, you know.
Exactly. Producers. You know what's really funny? When we opened our Producers, they were playing Diana and talk to me. Anyhow, and all their don't care what she got that I don't have.
Yeah, what she got that I don't got,
or something like
that. She's got you. That's what she's got. That's quite a lot. Hey,
the bass player became a Christian, and he was going to leave the band, going with another one. Well, they weren't getting along that night, because even on stage, you could see there was a rift between the lead singer. He's a friend of mine on Facebook too, and I can't think of his name. It's got an odd name. Anyhow, him and the bass player, you could see there was a rift, but they didn't let us show too much on stage because it's unprofessional. But we're right in the backstage, and I could see this stuff going on. And the keyboard player, that real tall guy.
Yep.
He had his keyboard on the strap.
Yeah.
What a character. The song, it goes ding 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 ding. Remember that song?
I think so, yeah.
I'm telling you. The stuff he did was spot on. And shoot, I think his name starts with a V. The lead singer, guitar player, and he's actually a good guitar player too. A good guitar player and a real good singer. But their vocals were really good.
Yeah, they were.
And the funny thing, I don't remember the drummer.
Yeah.
I couldn't tell. I couldn't know if I fell over him. I wouldn't know him. You know, the shame. A poor guy plays in a band, famous band. You go, the drummer. Who is your drummer?
That's the truth, though. You know,
I'm not a drummer.
That's the truth.
But they were a really good band. They played really well. I never felt intimidated because they were a different kind of music than we played. We were the Scorpions and Billy Idol and Loverboy, and I think we even did a Judas Priest song, "Living After Midnight," and got Another Thing Coming. I think. Which I hate, Living After Midnight, but I love Another Thing Coming. I'm not a Judas Priest fan per se.
Yeah.
Another Thing Coming was probably that has a chunk about it that I liked.
It does. It does.
And it's got that really nice thumpy. I think it's even an F sharp. It's a good chunk chords, other than E.
It is. I know what you're saying about that. It was like Living After Midnight is one of those. It's one of those songs like Paranoid. It's like one of those songs that it's like it's one of the songs you first learn when you're playing guitar, and it's easy. It's easy, and it's something that you can throw into a set to kill 5 minutes or whatever the song is. But the thing is, it's like everybody's sick of hearing it. I mean, not that people don't love Judas Priest, but people are just sick of hearing that.
Wayne's World, where it says, "Please refrain from playing the following selections."
Stairway to Heaven, yeah. No Stairway, yeah.
Blackbird.
Yep.
Blackbird singing in the dead of night.
Yeah.
The guy would come in and start playing. I go, "Hey, you didn't read the sign. Gordon Miller's right there." You know, the effects where you try the effects out and going through a rolling JC 120. And the kid would come right and start going, ding, ding, ding. Hey! And the kid would stop playing and go, read the sign. It says, please refrain from playing the following selection. And one of them was Sweet Child of Mine.
Yep.
What's called the yodel rock song, right? Yeah, I should write a song like that and make the millions they made. But
that's the truth.
I'm sorry. I know I make some people like, man, you're doing it. I'm sorry. Slash, way overrated. He's had his moments. Don't get me wrong. There's a couple songs he burned in, but I've seen him live a couple times, and it ain't real good.
Yeah.
I don't know if he's on speed or he's too hyper because he's actually bending these strings sharp. Like, man, who's the tech? Who's tuning this guitar? But he was on stage. It was Steve Lukather, Jeff Beck, Brian. What's his name with Stray Cats?
Setzer.
And Slash is on stage with Jeff Beck, Steve Luke. These are all premier guitar players. He's up there. I'm like, why? When he goes to play, I'm like, oh, you got to be kidding me. I mean, I'll just try throwing up. It just, you knew who took the show away?
Who's that?
Brian Setzer.
Oh, yeah.
You know why? He went up there and he does. I mean, I love Jeff Beck. He's one of my main influences, but he went up there and he overplayed. Lukather overplayed, and at the time he was still using all these different effects at one time. And I mean, you'll hear a guy now, it's just monster. Freaking Lukather is just a monster. But Brian Setzer took away the show, man. He got up there and he did what he does. He does the rockabilly and the blues, and he fuses those. And he's fast. He's got great vibrato, and he's got total control. But he took the show away. And I mean, I was disappointed with Beck because Beck is my main guy. I mean,
sure.
But, that's not taking anything away from when he plays with a young girl who was playing bass at the time. And then he has, the session drummer, Kenny Caliuta.
Oh, right.
What a monster. And what's her name?
Oh, the girl. I know who you mean. I've seen her before.
Judith Button, her hair is real wavy. She's a little prodigy is what she is, but man, what a monster player.
Oh, yeah.
They even did the one Billy Cobham song I was talking about. I think it's called Stratus or something like that. And but like I said, it's the worst thing in the world is put 6 guitar players on stage at one time. It's just it must be inherent, you know, they get up there and just try to. I'm going to play my best.
Mhm.
Everything you've ever known, you play it in 3 seconds, right? You know?
Yeah, they get those tours out there from time to time where they bring out like the G3 tour or something, where they bring out like
Yeah.
3 guitar players, and it's usually like Joe Satriani, Steve Vai. I think
Yep.
they had Yngwie Malmsteen once, but then I think they replaced him with like Uli John Roth.
Right.
Yeah, and because they
He
used
was
to
the
come.
original guitar player for Scorpions, wasn't he? One of the original guys for Scorpion, wasn't it?
Yeah, he was in there. I think maybe right before or after Michael Schenker.
Yeah, well,
And
actually, I thought it might have been when Schenker left the band.
it might have
started his own
been.
band.
It might have been.
But you
And
know what? I wasn't all that fancy on Schenker. But then years later, I saw him do it. He was just by himself playing. I call it doodles. But man, I knocked my eyes out. I was like, wow, that's Schenker? But because he didn't play that way back in the day. The UFO and all that stuff. I was never that crazy about his playing. But when I heard this, I was like, whoa, check this out. I mean, he was really screaming and shredding. I was like, and it was good stuff. It wasn't any of the tricks or stuff. He was just really just good, solid, fast, good vibrato, bending notes right on the money. And but there's a lot of guys out there, I mean, like that. I mean, the Lucathers and Eric Johnson.
Yeah,
But the older generation would be Gary Moore, which was with Thin Lizzy for a short stint.
Yep.
He was another guy. What's this? Something about the blues for me. I've still got the blues for you. I think it was. Still got the blues for you. But had nice speed, nice vibrato. Just a good player.
Yeah, he had some nice albums out on his own too, besides Thin Lizzy.
Yeah, in fact, the one he used to stand there with Les Paul and his legs are spread apart and stand there in the rock and roll look, you know. I've got that album on vinyl, so
Yep.
I can't remember what it's called, but it's Gary Moore, actually.
Sure.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, it's really funny. If I'm playing with so many bands, you lose track and go, I can't remember half of the bands I played with.
Right.
I tell you one thing was ill-fated was the Eclipse at the Journey tribute.
Oh yeah.
Anyhow, I think we did that thing for Mike. What's his name? He used to be the sound engineer local.
Mike Scarinzi?
No, not Scarinzi. He just died recently. No, he's a sound guy, and we did a celebration of life for him at the Riverwatch.
Oh, okay. I think I heard about that.
Oh, shoot, I can't think. Lambros, Mike Lambros.
Oh, sure. Yeah. Okay.
You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
We did that for him. I thought I was supposed to join the band, but there was some weird stuff going on. You got a guy named Mike Graziano who comes from Front Royal, Virginia, which is like a 2.5-hour drive. And it's kind of a little above the mediocre. I have to be nice and call him a little above mediocre, but I know I'm opinionated, but it's true. I mean, other guys could hear and say, just to be honest, I mean, a lot of the leads are like I said, they're playing the Journey stuff, and I'm a Neil Schon fan, and not even close. Just you got to have that bends and the vibrato, and you have to have the speed. And anyhow, I found out one thing is that the drummer doesn't have very good meter. Has really bad meter. I'm not the only guy to say it. I won't mention any other names. And I hate that. I usually try to stay. If I don't have anything good to say about it, don't say it. It wasn't gonna work with me. And I'm a real Steve Perry fan. And if you're not the drummer that played with I think he's back with Journey now, but he sounds exactly like Steve Perry, even better than the guy they had singing lead up front.
Yep.
What the heck's his name? Italian guy, Dean Castronova.
Ever
hear him sing? I've got it on my phone. My daughter went and saw him in Atlantic City.
Yeah.
Mother, father. I played it, and everybody's go, "Oh, Steve Perry." I said, "No, that's not Steve Perry."
Yeah.
Like who? I said, "It's the drummer." But like I said, they 2.5 step down, and that bugs the heck out of me, because everything you learn, you can't memorize it, right? Because now you're tuning it down a half step, and I'm like, and I have acute relative pitch.
Yeah.
I can't play stuff, and it messes. Only one of my guitars I can 2.5 step down. All the other becomes very unstable.
Yeah. Right.
Now, people, when I do these doodles, they're like, "Man, how's the guitar stay in tune while you you're wang barring it?" I said, "Because I just the way I set them up." But I couldn't get them to stay in tune. So I said, I did the one job, and there was some weird stuff that was going on. So I just said, I'm out of here. I don't want to do this. You guys, they work a lot, and people don't know. Like, hey, you guys are great, man.
Yeah.
And you need to deal with that. And I'm honest with you. You could ask Trotter Krabs. He says, Mike, I come up and ask you how the band sound, because you're always perfectly honest, and you depict it. You'll say, well, this is not, and this is over here. So he would always come to me and ask me how the band sounds.
Yeah.
That one song by Zeppelin, dun, 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 dun. Oh, need your love, dun, dun.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I know the one you mean.
Well, I'll tell you what. They were at Andre's, and I came out to Sam, which is, I played with them many a times there. And it's the one song, I swear, man, they nailed it. In fact, I was a little bit like, oh, shoot, man. I wish I was in that band now,
Yeah.
They nailed it. It was probably the best song they did all night. But in fact, the guy they had playing guitar second to Johnny was Danny, a guy I grew up with right across the street. He's the one who did their neon sign for him.
Oh, yeah. I remember that sign.
For a neon company. And he's the one that did the Winter Sun neon sign.
Oh, yeah, I remember that sign. Yeah.
I'll tell you what, man, they did that song by Led Zeppelin, and I was floored. And whoever did sound that night was a decent sound man, because everything was really, really sounded good. And but that's when Johnny came up and said, man, that Led Zeppelin song, Johnny, man, you guys nailed that song. I tell you the truth, man, I felt bad, because I was like, I should be on that stage right now, And Johnny laughed, goes, man, I really appreciate that,
Oh, yeah.
I mean, if it doesn't sound good, I'm going to tell you why it doesn't sound good. Not just it doesn't sound good, but here's why it doesn't, whatever. Because, I mean, if you're not honest with people, they just keep playing it and sound like crap. I mean.
Oh, yeah. Or you got to.
Favor, drop the song. Yeah, you guys do this stuff better. Don't do that stuff. Stay away from it.
Oh, when it comes to anything, you've got to, that's the one thing I kind of like now since COVID. And this kind of ties into that. When I go to audition, as an actor, and I would go up to New York, you usually get like 1 or 2 shots, and you don't really get to see what you're doing wrong. But since COVID, you record these at home. You can try it as many different times as you want, polish it up, before you send it in. And I think it works a lot better that way, because you're sending in a much better product of yourself, because sometimes,
You're right. Because when COVID was going on, I wasn't playing out. But, man, I was doing a lot of doodles and playing more. I was going back to recording again. And believe it or not, even when I'm using a special pickup so I can play keyboard sounds with my guitar, I'm actually going out of it's an interface, goes out of that into the keyboard, out of the keyboard into the sound interface. So it tracks a little better. There's less latency.
Right.
And but it kept my fingers in shape. Because I mean, if you don't play, even now with a little bit of arthritis kicking in and stuff and getting older, if I don't play I don't do this, but if I don't play for a couple weeks, I'd be stiff. It would take me a couple hours to warm up. Now, so often that I don't have that problem. But I mean, I have, like I said, I have arthritis. I know that. I got these knots on my index finger, and I have these little pains here and there. It doesn't stop me from playing, but they hurt, but not while I'm playing.
Right.
And, I mean, that's one thing I go through pain management because I have 2 discs that are screwed up my neck.
Oh.
And pain was in the neck originally, but now it's my shoulders. My left arm, if I hold it out in front of me like this, it hurts like the dick. It's just to hold it.
Yeah.
But it's because there's one of the discs is pushed up against a nerve.
Yeah.
So
I know what you mean by that.
From my neck down through my shoulder blades.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it is what it is, but hey,
Right.
you know what? I'm living and breathing. I'm on this side of the grass, and I'm happy with that.
Oh, great. Yeah. Yep. So, well, Mike, I'd like to thank you for joining us tonight here. We're going to have to wrap up here in just a second or two. Tell us real quick here that we can do some shameless plugs. This is the shameless plug portion of the evening where you can shamelessly plug anything you'd like to shamelessly plug with no shamelessness spared. So go ahead.
But emphasis on the shamelessness, right?
Absolutely. Spill it out.
I'm going to be with Whiskerfish, a couple jobs coming up next month in October.
Okay.
I think there might be another Harley Davidson job coming up. It might be Rowboat Willie's, and if you look up Whiskerfish, I think they're listed on. Well, if I know Facebook, if you look on Facebook and do a search, it's got their schedule there.
Okay.
Same thing when I was with the Hubcaps. I swear they used to send schedules, and I would print them out. But people go, "Where are you playing there?" I only know when I look at my schedule.
Sure.
Guys ramble on. And they're like, now these comedians go on night shows and they'll ramble on the other days. I'm like, I can't do that, man. I'm just not good at that. You know what I mean? I look at the schedule, go, okay, I'm there. Okay, all right, got GPS. I'm putting it in my, Waze. So, anyhow, but yeah, a couple jobs next month with Whiskerfish. I don't know with the other band Thumbs Up because I haven't gotten together with them yet. But that'll be rehearsal with them would be easy. I know we pull together 50 tunes in 2 rehearsals.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
I mean, we played it for how many years?
Right.
So,
right. Well, great. Well, go ahead.
No, yeah, you're fine. It's good. Good.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I just wanted to thank you for coming on and sharing some more stories with us and everything. It's always great to talk to you, and I follow you on Facebook. And again, you're always up to something, and good to see us back out there working again after that, all that time of being down and everything, not being able to do it. It really feels fun to get out there and do it again,
Yep.
So our prison sentence is over.
That's right.
Yep. All right. So, folks, we've had Mike Shipley here tonight telling us some more stories, tons and tons of stories. And Mike, you definitely have to come back again sometime too, and we can talk, maybe bring a couple other folks on and everything and just tell some stories from back in the day and the different clubs and everything else.
Next time I think of things that happen, I'll write it down. That way, if we ever have another meeting, I'll go, hold on, let me get my sheet. I got a cheat sheet and I can look at it and go, oh yeah, let me tell you this story.
Sure. Absolutely. I love it. It's part of our history. We have a great scene, a lot of great clubs, a lot of great history. And that's, the reason we're here is to kind of share these things. So Mike, thanks again. And thank you all for listening. This is Fowl Players Radio. Our guest tonight was Mike Shipley, and we will see you next time.
Hi, this is Paul Castiglia, and you're listening to Fowl Players Radio, the one-stop shop for all your pop culture needs.
Well, folks, thank you for joining us tonight and listening to Michael Shipley. He's always a great guest. I've had him on the show before. He's a veteran. He's been around, and he's got lots of great stories about bands and clubs and everything from yesteryear. And I really hope you enjoyed us bringing him back. Remember, the Fowl Players of Perryville are going to be performing again on the Western Maryland Scenic Railroad and at Fifth Company Brewing. Make sure you check our website, www.fowlplayersofperryville.com. Until next time, again, check out our YouTube channel. We're going to be moving a lot of our classic episodes over to the YouTube channel, so they'll be there for you to see and hear. And we will see you next time. Remember to hit that subscribe and like button. Take care.